in the morning.
Welcome back to our channel, soap opera lovers. Today is a fantastic day to dive deep into the incredibly twisted, unpredictable, and endlessly fascinating world of Genoa City. Grab your favorite cup of coffee, settle into your most comfortable chair, and let us unpack the latest explosive drama together. When it comes to legendary villains on daytime television, there is a very distinct line between those who are simply greedy for corporate power and those who are driven by pure and filtered psychological obsession. Patty Williams firmly belongs in the latter category, and that is exactly what makes her one of the most terrifying and captivating characters to ever grace our screens. She is not just a regular antagonist looking to steal a company or a bank account. Patty operates on a completely different wavelength, driven by a deeply fractured mind and an agonizingly tragic history. Her psychological instability makes her every move entirely unpredictable. Audiences absolutely love rewatching the moments she makes Jack Abbott suffer, not because we want to see Jack in pain, but because the sheer dramatic intensity of their dynamic is unparalleled. The history of Patty Williams and Jack Abbott is a masterclass in how a pure, innocent love can be corrupted into a dark, suffocating, and blind hatred over decades of betrayal, heartbreak, and profound trauma. To truly understand the absolute chaos currently unfolding in Genoa City, we have to look back at the origins of this obsessive love. Decades ago, Patty was a sweet, innocent young woman who loved Jack Abbott with all her heart. But Jack, driven by his own selfish desires and corporate ambitions, shattered that innocence. The tragic loss of their unborn child, the devastating shooting, and her eventual descent into madness under the alias Mary Jane Benson all stem from the emotional carnage Jack left in his wake. Patty's mind broke because her heart broke first. Over the years, we have seen her return time and time again, always drawn back to Jack like a moth to a devastatingly destructive flame. She has orchestrated kidnappings, terrorized Diane Jenkins, threatened Nikki Newman, and wreaked absolute havoc on the entire Abbott family. Every single time she returns, she brings a new level of psychological warfare, and her current reign of terror might just be her masterpiece. The latest chapter in this dark saga began with a fragile, incredibly dangerous alliance. Jack Abbott, blinded by his lifelong hatred for Victor Newman, actually considered teaming up with Patty to take down the Newman patriarch. Jack thought he could control the situation, believing he could use Patty's unpredictable nature as a weapon against Victor and then simply walk away. But you cannot play with fire and expect not to get burned. When Diane Jenkins pleaded for peace, Jack made the fatal mistake of backing out of the alliance, effectively rejecting Patty all over again. In Patty's fractured mind, this was the ultimate betrayal. She felt used, discarded, and tossed aside by the only man she has ever truly loved. That rejection was the catalyst that transformed her lingering affection into a ruthless, calculating, and blind hatred. Patty decided that if she could not have Jack's love, she would completely dismantle his life, piece by agonizing piece. Patty's retaliation was swift, brutal, and brilliantly executed. She did not just attack Jack physically, she went straight for his reputation and his fragile marriage. In a move of pure vindictive genius, Patty secretly contacted the media and leaked the explosive details of Jack's calculated psychological warfare. She exposed how Jack had manipulated her and used her in a complex game to mess with Victor and Diane. The fallout was catastrophic. The news spread like wildfire across Genoa City, causing absolute chaos at Abbott and severely damaging Jack's public image. But the most devastating blow was to Diane. Hearing that Jack had engaged in such dark, manipulative tactics shattered her newly rebuilt trust in him. The revelation pushed their relationship to the absolute breaking point, leaving Diane questioning everything she thought she knew about the man she married. Patty successfully planted a bomb in the middle of the Abbott family, and she sat back to watch the glorious explosion. But Patty Williams was only just getting started. The true horror of her master plan was revealed when Diane Jenkins inexplicably vanished. Todd Abbott was the first to realize something was terribly wrong. He noticed his mother had not been to the office in days, and a frantic check of her room at the Genoa City Athletic Club revealed an unslept bed. The panic that set in for Carl and Jack was palpable, a chilling echo of the past when they believed Diane was dead. Jack's mind immediately went to the darkest possible conclusion. Patty Williams was behind this. And he was absolutely right, though the reality of Diane's situation was far more sinister than a simple kidnapping. Patty had not just locked Diane in a basement, she had handed her over to a monster. Diane awoke to a living nightmare, stumbling around a strange, unfamiliar room, desperately calling for help. Every door was locked. The sheer terror of realizing she was a captive was brilliantly portrayed, setting the stage for a psychological thriller that feels straight out of a horror movie. When she found the books authored by Ellen Lauren, she grabbed a letter opener, ready to fight for her life. But the man who walked through the door was not a typical thug. It was Dr. Lawrence Markham, a psychiatrist with a deeply perverted and predatory nature. The casting of Jerry Burns in this role is a stroke of absolute genius by the showrunners, signaling to the audience that Diane is in for a harrowing psychological ordeal. Markham calmly disarmed her with his clinical demeanor, offering her tea and twisting reality to suit his narrative. The psychological torture Dr. Markham is inflicting on Diane is incredibly difficult to watch, yet impossible to look away from. He coldly informed her that she had suffered a catastrophic mental breakdown, and that he had found her screaming on the side of the road. But the most devastating lie he told was that Jack Abbott had agreed to this. Markham convinced Diane that her own husband believed her mind was shattered and had consented to Markham locking her away for treatment. This gaslighting is a masterclass in psychological manipulation. By isolating Diane from the outside world and feeding her the narrative that Jack has abandoned her, Markham is slowly breaking down her defenses. The terrifying reality is that Diane is beginning to lose her grip on what is real and what is a lie. The boundaries are blurring, and she is slowly developing genuine feelings of dependence and affection for her captor, a classic and horrifying case of Stockholm Syndrome. While Diane is being mentally dismantled, Jack is facing his own customized hell courtesy of Patty Williams. Patty arrived at the Abbott mansion, invited herself in, and casually showed Jack a photograph on her phone of Diane lying unconscious on a bed. The sheer panic and desperation in Jack's eyes as he demanded to know where his wife was gave Patty exactly what she wanted: absolute power. She mocked him, claiming that she was protecting him from his crazy wife and that Diane was exactly where she needed to be. Then came the extortion. Patty made it chillingly clear that Diane would never return to him, and that Jack had to make a new choice. That choice was her. Patty is forcing Jack into a twisted, fake romantic relationship, claiming that the universe has destined them to be together. Jack is now trapped, forced to play the devoted lover to the woman who is holding his wife's life in the balance. It is a sickening, agonizing game of emotional blackmail. The Abbott family, however, is not going down without a fight. Tracy Abbott, the traditional peacemaker of the family, stepped out of her comfort zone to deliver a fierce, public confrontation. Alongside Jack and Kyle, Tracy cornered Patty at a public event, demanding answers and accountability for the lies and the pain she has inflicted on their family. Tracy's righteous fury was a spectacular moment, proving that her loyalty to her family is an unbreakable force. She pushed Patty to face her conscience, drawing the attention of the entire crowd and exposing Patty's erratic behavior to the public eye. It was a powerful reminder that the Abbotts are a united front, even when facing a force of nature like Patty. Kyle Abbott's reaction to his mother's disappearance took a much darker and more violent turn. Driven by a terrifying mixture of profound sorrow and unadulterated rage, Kyle tracked Patty down and cornered her in the shadows. He completely lost control, grabbing her and violently demanding to know where Diane was hidden. But Patty, in her true, chilling fashion, simply smiled a maniacal smile. She was completely unbothered by Kyle's physical threats. Instead, she used the opportunity to drop a cryptic, horrifying hint about a secret buried deep in the past. She mentioned Jack and a switched DNA sample, planting a toxic seed of doubt in Kyle's mind about his true parentage. Patty knows exactly how to hit where it hurts the most, using psychological warfare to destabilize Kyle just as she has destabilized Jack. As if the kidnapping and the extortion were not enough, Patty delivered the ultimate, jaw-dropping twist that completely rewrote Abbott family history. Based on a terrifying nightmare Diane experienced in her captivity, Patty confronted Jack with a secret she has harbored for decades. The child that Jack and Patty believed was lost to a tragic miscarriage all those years ago is actually alive. This bombshell revelation is absolutely staggering. It shatters Jack's entire reality, forcing him to question everything he thought he knew about his past and his relationship with Patty. This is not just a plot twist. It is an emotional earthquake that will fundamentally alter the dynamics of the entire show. Jack is now torn between his desperate need to save Diane and the overwhelming, shocking reality that he has a missing child out there in the world. Patty's chaotic reach is not just limited to the Abbotts. She is actively expanding her army of outcasts. In a brilliant and unexpected move, Patty managed to bribe a hotel maid to gain access to the room where Phyllis Summers was holding the amnesiac Matt Clark hostage. Patty snuck in, cut Matt's ties, and freed him from Phyllis's control. But Patty did not just rescue him out of the goodness of her heart. She immediately began manipulating Matt's vulnerable, memory-wiped mind. She fed him a twisted narrative about the Newman family, painting them as evil monsters, and positioned herself as his only true friend and savior. By aligning herself with Matt Clark, Patty has acquired a highly dangerous, unpredictable weapon to use in her war against Genoa City. She is building a coalition of the damaged and the discarded, making her an even more formidable threat. Looking at this incredible storyline, I have to offer some honest personal commentary on these characters. Stacey Haydock is delivering an absolute masterclass as Patty Williams. She manages to balance the terrifying, unhinged malice of the character with a tragic, almost childlike vulnerability that makes you understand her pain, even as you condemn her actions. You cannot help but feel a profound sense of sympathy for Jack Abbott. Peter Bergman is playing Jack's desperation and agonizing internal conflict perfectly. He is a man who is watching his entire life burn down around him, forced to sacrifice his dignity to save the woman he loves. Susan Walters is also doing phenomenal work as Diane. Watching her strong, manipulative character be slowly broken down into a compliant, traumatized victim by Dr. Markham is chilling and heartbreaking. And Kyle, poor Kyle, is acting exactly how a desperate son would act. His violent outburst against Patty was completely justified in his mind, showcasing the raw, unfiltered terror of losing his mother all over again. As we look to the future of Genoa City, the predictions are incredibly dark and thrilling. I predict that Jack will be forced to go to extreme, potentially illegal lengths to uncover the truth about his missing child with Patty, which will only entangle him further in her toxic web. I believe Diane's Stockholm Syndrome will reach a critical point where, even if Jack manages to find her, she may refuse to leave Dr. Markham, creating a tragic and devastating rescue attempt. Furthermore, Patty's alliance with the amnesiac Matt Clark is a ticking time bomb. I predict that Matt's memories will begin to violently resurface, and when he realizes Patty has been manipulating him just as much as Phyllis did, he will turn his lethal rage toward her, resulting in a catastrophic showdown between the two villains. The drama in Genoa City has never been more intense, more psychological, or more dangerous. The writers have truly outdone themselves by bringing Patty Williams back to the forefront and allowing her to unleash her unique brand of brilliant, unhinged chaos upon the Abbott family. The stakes are life and death, the secrets are world-shattering, and the performances are absolutely top tier. What do you think about Patty's reign of terror, and do you believe Jack will ever be able to save Diane from Dr. Markham's clutches? Let us know all your thoughts and theories in the comments section below, and please do not forget to like and share this article with your fellow soap opera fanatics.